Is it the right time for you to be buying or selling a home? Don't go it alone. Trust the team at dangemus.com.
I just want to say kudos. I thought it. A lot of people are thinking it. You said it.
This is the Dan Gemus Real Estate Show.
Welcome back to the show, everyone. Yes, one more half hour to go with you on this Saturday afternoon. Back with you tomorrow from noon to 1 as well on AM800. Every Saturday and Sunday here. You can find us. Right, Kath?
Without fail.
Yes, Kathy Talbot in studio with me today. We're having a good time. And, a hot topic, Kath, over the last few years, it's been affordable housing, right? And the lack thereof. There's definitely not enough affordable housing. And, we see a lot of buildings popping up across Windsor, Essex County, apartment buildings, condo buildings. And the comment that we hear most often is, yeah, but they're not affordable.
That's right.
And you're right. They're not affordable. It's a difficult topic. And there are so many, things at play here. It's not a simple topic to cover because of, costs, material costs, labor costs, development costs. There's just so much at play. So we want to tackle a little bit of that topic. I was on the air with Dan McDonald, on the Dan McDonald show with John, actually, who was filling in for Dan this past week. And I was in studio. We had a discussion about, just the market itself. A recent report came out from CMHC with new housing starts, and it showed a drastic increase in housing starts for the month of June. And so when they originally called me and said, Dan, could you pop on with John and talk about this? I said, sure. And I came on, and the first thing I said was, well, this is a bunch of hoopla for nothing, because essentially all this is showing is that a whole bunch of larger buildings have popped onto the market and started construction. So that really doesn't tell us much. It's not relieving any pressure of any sort from an affordable housing standpoint. So then the question becomes, why are we having such a hard time with affordable housing? Why has it become such an issue? And over the last few years, obviously, we've all watched the housing prices go up and up and up. Not only from a resale standpoint or new construction standpoint, but also for rentals. Right, Kath? It's hard to find a rental for cheap anymore.
Oh, cheap? Nope.
You used to be able to find a one-bedroom for $500-$600. You'd be able to find a bachelor apartment for $300, $400. No, now you are getting a bachelor apartment for $1,000 a month. You're getting a one-bedroom for $1,500 a month. A two-bedroom for $1,800, $1,900, $2,000 a month plus.
Yes.
So, what is happening out there? Why is it so expensive? And there are so many facets. And a lot of people I find, Kath, they're quick to jump to conclusions on both ends, right?
Oh, yeah. Everybody's got an answer, how they would fix it.
100%. And oftentimes, the first thing that people say that will say, well, it's all because landlords are costing or they're charging a fortune. They're gouging people. They're gouging tenants. Well, that is not necessarily the case. And let me explain. Back, 5, 6, 7 years ago, okay, you used to be able to buy a unit. Let's call it a unit. So whether it's a duplex or a triplex, you used to spend $50,000 to $100,000 per unit. So you could buy a triplex for $150,000. It wasn't unheard of. You could buy a duplex for $60,000, $70,000, $80,000, $90,000, $100,000.
Yep.
Today, you are a $500,000 for a duplex.
Yep.
You are $700 plus for a triplex. And so back, in the time, it wasn't that long ago, when you could buy that triplex for $150,000 or a duplex for, $60,000, $70,000, $80,000, $90,000, $100,000, you could have rentals in there and you could have tenants paying $500 a month, $600 a month. But now, when a landlord is spending, $1 million or $700,000 for a triplex, well, they can't afford any longer to have a unit filled with a tenant only paying $500 when their mortgage payment is $6,000 a month plus interest, plus insurance, plus management, plus et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So any new properties popping up on the market, and you can multiply this by whatever units in the building, right? Same with the large building. If you're building a larger apartment building with 3 floors, 4 floors with 40 units, 50 units, whatever it is, those costs have all grown exponentially, as has the interest rates on those mortgages, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So you have costs that you have to keep up with. I don't know about you, Kath, but our home insurance this past year went up 20%.
Oh, yeah. I think everybody's did.
Yeah. So, all those costs go up on landlords as well.
That's right.
And so, listen, I know I don't want to come off like I'm just protecting landlords and that they're not, some situations aren't unfair. There are definitely some situations that are unfair. I'm a landlord. We have some units. We have mostly commercial units, but we have some residential units. And when we have units that we've had buildings that we've owned for a long time, and we can only increase rent by 1% or 1.5%. This year is 2.5%. So great, you increase rent by $13 a month.
That helps.
That's not making up for the cost differences, right? So at the end of the day, I want to caution everyone to not just blame landlords. This is not to mention, there's so many issues here, not to mention the landlord-tenant board, which you have a tenant. We have one case ourselves where we had a building that the tenant was almost $16,000 in arrears.
Yeah.
They didn't pay rent for like a year. It took us over a year to get them out.
Yeah.
We'll never see that money again.
Nope.
Right? So it was found in our favor, but we are garnishing wages, but we're getting about $40 a month. Okay, do the math. Okay? And that's assuming he stays at the same job
Yes.
for a long time, for 500 years to pay off that debt. So we'll never see that money. So now, in our situation, this building that we've since sold it, but it had multiple units that was able to kind of cushion that blow to us. But had it been a single-family home or a duplex, that can bankrupt somebody.
Very
That
quickly.
can literally bankrupt a landlord.
Yeah.
So it's not as simple as just collecting whatever rent you want and then running to the bank. That is not the case. We've often said that typically when an investor has a rental property, they hope to break even or maybe make up to $100 a month per unit in profit. Now this is a very loosey-goosey term, profit, okay? Because you still have other expenses, you still have maintenance, et cetera. So, but with the interest rate hikes, now what's happening is a lot of landlords are losing money every month on their properties. So a lot of them are leveraged to the max, and so it makes it a very difficult situation for everyone. Now let's take it back to my initial discussion topic about affordable housing in general. So I've touched base on rentals for a little bit, but let's go back to ownership, home ownership. Now, back in the day, Kath, we used to see the construction of a lot of wartime homes, right? Which was a way for the government during the wartime to get a whole bunch of units, a whole bunch of homes up as quickly as possible and in an affordable way. Now, why aren't we seeing more developments full of wartime homes? Well, because the costs are not conducive to that kind of construction. Now, let me explain a bit further. Back in the day, let's go back 10 years, okay? Not even that long ago. You could buy a residential lot, Kath, for how much? $20,000, $30,000.
Yeah.
Okay?
30.
And I'll tell you because we built a house in Amherstburg, in Kingsbridge, back in 2012. And back then, the lots were $30,000.
There you go.
Okay?
Yeah.
So that wasn't that long ago. Now, a lot in an average neighborhood, an average size lot, 50 by 100 and whatever, now you're looking at to $250,000, some $300,000 for the same size lot.
Yes.
Development fees in some municipalities are $50,000 plus. So before you even build a house on a lot, you're up to $300,000. So great. Now you got to build a house on that lot. Now to build a 1,000 square foot, you could be $350 to $400 a square foot to build a house right now. So great. Now you're another $300,000 to build a 1,000 square foot house. So now you're $700,000, $700,000 right off the bat, easy, all day long. That's on the low end.
Yep. You haven't finished the basement. You haven't done the driveway. You haven't done the landscaping. You haven't put up a fence. And that's not high-end finishing.
No. So this is why you are seeing more developers, more builders doing townhomes, right, where they're attached, side by side, because again, you are squeezing more development into a smaller area.
Yep.
So again, it takes down the cost of each lot because developers are running sewers, roadways, everything to those properties, right?
Yeah.
Which is why the most affordable way to build right now is large buildings, condo buildings, building up. Exactly, building up.
There's not enough land.
There's not enough land. And so people say, well, we have tons of land. It's Canada. Great. But you got to build services to that land out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
Right? Sewers, water, roads, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So that's why you're better off, doing infill where the services already exist. So it's just not as simple as just saying build smaller properties. So, okay, great. Why are we not seeing a development full of tiny homes then? Even if a tiny home, you're probably, $150,000 to $200,000 to build a tiny home today. Why aren't we seeing a development full of those? Well, if I had to guess, probably because developers and builders can't make money on them. By the time you build a tiny little house, there's not much profit to be made.
Yeah.
It's my guess, right? So at the end of the day, we have to understand that developers and builders are in it for business, for profit.
Yeah.
They're not doing this to donate their time. They have to live. They have bills to pay as well. So they have to be able to make a profit as well. And the market that we're in right now is just not conducive to developers and builders making a profit on tiny properties. When now there's no doubt the new construction market has slowed down drastically over the last year.
Just drive around.
100%. But it will pick back up again. And we're already starting to see it, pick back up a little bit. But those builders are building, $600,000+ properties, townhomes, and if it's a single family home, you're nearing $1 million.
Yes.
And even then, they are not making a killing on those buildings. They have to do volume. They have to do lots of them. They have to build lots of those properties.
Wow.
So that is the key, right? And I understand that it's a little difficult. It's a confusing issue for some people to understand. But ultimately, I've said it on the show before. I've said it on the morning drive, on Dan's show with Patty Handysides. Ultimately, government has to step in to help build affordable housing.
That's
we
right.
cannot depend solely on private industry to do it. It's just not feasible. You can't do it. We've built houses before. We had Gemus homes.
Yeah.
I gave up on it. It was just not profitable. It's a pain in the butt. There's no money there. So unless you're doing it, at large scale, which real estate is our main industry, right? So we're focusing all of our time selling and helping buyers and sellers. So there was just not enough profit in new home construction for us to kind of keep the energy there. So we have a lot of employees to pay. You have to make money, right? So I understand that it's a difficult issue, but not everyone understands that. But trust me when I say that it's not as simple of a problem to fix as people are hoping it is, as the online keyboard warriors think it is. That is not that simple. But
I've talked to a few people in the last month or so that were going to consider a tiny home on their property.
Yes.
But even at $200,000 and just over $200,000 to them, that was
it's
still
hard.
Too difficult. It was still too much. They were hoping for 100, 150,000. They're not going to
pause your thought. I want to take a break because I don't want to give up on this topic.
Okay.
It's important, but we're out of time for this segment. We'll take a break. We're going to come back with more on this, Kath, right here on the Dan Gemus Real Estate Show.